The Hart Bridge, an artery into downtown, clogged by 52,000 vehicles a day. So right now, the city is looking for money to change the way you get on and off the bridge by actually demolishing this overpass.
This opens up a ton of new questions that directly impact you. Will it change your commute? And what about getting to and from the stadium and Daly's Place? And how much taxpayer money will be used to tear down the overpass? Tonight, First Coast News' Matt Head takes a deeper look at the answers for us.
Monopoly, a board game of chance, where players buy and trade properties to develop with houses and hotels. The perfect analogy for what happens if a 1.2-mile stretch of the Hart Bridge Expressway leading into downtown is demolished. A chance that could serve as, quote, a catalyst for revitalizing and energizing downtown Jacksonville. Or
I think it would make my commute longer. If not, it would make it definitely more stressful.
Southside resident Catherine McLeod commutes downtown for work. She expects her commute time to double.
So right now I'm lucky, but with these changes, who knows what it's going to be.
According to this 2017 study, this elevator road would come down and a new access ramp to the bridge would be added near the intersection of Bay Street and Gator Bowl Boulevard. And Bay Street would then widen from 4 lanes to 6. The price tag? An estimated $48 million.
I think it creates an opportunity for an expansion of downtown, especially if you think about the waterfront.
Earlier this year, the Jacksonville Jaguars showed renderings of a waterfront development near TIAA Bank Field without the overpass. According to this FDOT study, reconfiguring the road will have a positive effect on the freight traffic coming to and from the Talleyrand Port area. University of Florida professor Ruth Steiner studies urban traffic.
And a lot of cities have reconsidered that kind of elevated freeway, largely because it becomes a divider.
Mayor Lenny Curry has pursued this project since 2016.
No emergency lanes, it's over 50 years old, 25% capacity used, so it's lived its time.
The city of Jacksonville and the state will pay $12.5 million each. Despite the high cost, the project has supporters like U.S. Senator Bill Nelson.
The more that we can have the economic activity in the port, therefore getting trucks and goods into the port and out of the port, that's a good thing. And I will always support those kind of projects.
But does waterfront development and fancy buildings win out over more traffic and longer commutes?
When you start to look at a change in capacity, the general thinking is that people will change their travel in time, they will change it in space, they will change it in route. So they may go on to some of the other bridges, which as I understand are pretty congested right now.
As this game continues, McLeod thinks the city should spend the money elsewhere.
There's plenty of roads in Jacksonville that need improving other than the Hart Bridge.
In downtown Jacksonville, I'm Matt Head, First Coast News on your side.
Thank you, Matt. Now, in a statement to First Coast News, the mayor's office says the removal of the bridge and the first phase of the associated components in this project can be accomplished using $25 million, $12.5 million in local funding, the same amount from the state. Later phases of the project, including timeline and funding sources, are still to be decided as this project continues to move forward. To read more on this story, you can visit our website at firstcoastnews.com.